what's going on in the world today, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Southern Sense Talk Radio with your host, Annie, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, and featuring Curtis C.S. Bennett and the most interesting guests that you'll find anywhere on internet radio. So sit back, relax, and remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
All right, and welcome to another adventure here on Southern Sense. We're here live on, where the heck are we today? Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, X, Instagram, Pinterest, Reddit, and half a dozen other places right now. For some reason, I'm having a little problem with LinkedIn, so sorry about that, guys. We'll just forget about LinkedIn today. Anyway, we've got ourselves a great show. I'm your hostess with the least mostest, Annie, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, along with my co-host, yes, Arthur. His name is not Arthur, it's C.S. Bennett. We've only been doing this for a couple of years. I still can't get the start of the show correct.
Yeah, I think about 5 years I've been on the show.
Oh, geez, has it really been that long? Oh, God. And how you've grown up, son. How you've grown up. We've got a lot to talk about, some great guests. We have coming on Katherine Makinney. She has a website called American POWs. She works with and tries to help support the J6 political prisoners. She has these little bands that you put around your wrist, similar to the POW bracelets we wore during the Vietnam War to support the troops that were being held prisoner by the Vietnamese. So here we're doing the same thing for the J6ers she's doing. We're going to be talking to her about that, along with Cathi Chamberlain. She was on our program a couple weeks back. She's the host of a podcast called Warn 2024, where she talks about the J6ers and other issues that are coming up in our news and events. She's also the author of a book called Rules for Deplorables. We're going to welcome her back. But there's so much to talk about when we get into the show, with the assassination attempt on Trump on Saturday, with the convention that went on during this week, with Trump and his final speech before the end of the convention. And then with Joe Biden calls for him to step out of the race. So there's a lot to talk about, a lot going on, and we're going to have a lot of fun anyway.
Oh, yeah. And I wanted to mention that Beth Heath group, We Can Be Heroes, they're having Roger Stone and Lori Loomer up in Jacksonville on August the 2nd.
Jacksonville, Florida, right?
Right. They had to move the venue because of the fact that they originally had it at the university. It was scheduled for the University of North Florida. And of course, you have liberal students who would probably protest, and they were afraid of having, an incident or something. So they moved the venue. That's sad.
That is sad. That is very, very sad that we as Americans can't have a conversation. And we're doing something to help veterans. I mean, that's not political. You've got veterans on all sides of the political aisle. And that doesn't mean simply because you're a veteran that automatically you're a conservative. No. I know a lot of veterans that are diehard liberal Democrats, and yet they served the country they love. So what is their problem? I mean, I would turn around and I would have said, what the hell with it? We're going to do this anyway. And if you want to protest, we'll embarrass the shit out of you.
Well, it's like last night when Trump was speaking. I just out of curiosity turned to CNN to see how they were covering it. They were, they had a picture, not of Trump speaking, not Trump, but his son Eric. And they were focusing on his wife, and they had the sound turned where you can't really hear it. And they had a panel discussion going on. So that's the way they can keep their people from hearing the truth. But say they covered the event.
Well, that's why we call them the lamestream media, because you're not going to get the truth for something like that. Mm-hmm. And Morning Joe Scarborough, the Monday after the assassination attempt, CNN decided that, they wanted to cover what was going on with the investigation and so forth. And they focused all on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And they said, well, listen, we don't want to have a huge uproar because this was the former president of the United States. We're going to give him respect. We're going to cover the assassination attempt and the investigation following it up. So we don't want to have a lot of blowback from people that, may say something that is off color, that's wrong. If you looked at the social network right after that, some of the comments were just so horrendous. One person posted, this guy had one job to do, just one simple job to do, and they couldn't get it right. Excuse me?
Yeah.
They're talking about taking a human life. So I will commend MSNBC for making that decision. However, Morning Joe Scarborough threw a temper tantrum, says, you ever do that again to me, I'm walking out. Well, goodbye, and don't let the door hit you in the ass, Joe.
Yeah. Hey, one of my favorite commentaries passed away, Lou Dobbs.
Yeah.
I loved him.
I mean, there have been a rash of celebrities that have been passing away, and Bob Newhart also. I loved Bob Newhart. And just the wacky sense of humor, and just to find the littlest, tiniest things that make it just hysterical. And it wasn't something that poked political fun at anyone or anything like that. It was just good, clean fun. And we can't have that anymore. Suddenly, that's not allowed.
Oh, no.
We used to be able to sit down, and it didn't matter what your politics were, race, gender, color, creed. You could sit down and have a meal and have a conversation. So what, you may not agree on subjects all along, but hey, that's your opinion. Fine. This is mine. We're still friends. You can still be friends.
Well, it's almost like when you speak in public, it has to be scripted so you don't say the wrong thing.
This wokeness has got to stop, because it will be the thing that destroys the fabric of America. And I think the American people are waking up to that fact, because that final night at the campaign, most of the messages were one of unity, one of joy, one that we were celebrating the fact that he was not killed, and that this political process we have here that our founding fathers handed us can go forward. And as we talk about that, they seem to have convinced Joe Biden that it would be better if he stepped out of the race, considering his frail health, and to let someone younger to step in. So it may be an open convention we're looking at. Nothing's set in stone yet, but it looks like Kamala Harris may get the nod from the Democratic elite. But there may be other people throwing their hats in, so which may make it an open convention, which is a good thing. They need that. They need to clean house and get fresh blood in there. I mean, we got to get rid of the nasty Nancy Pelosi's and, those that have been sitting there for the last 3 decades.
Well, all they're going to do is they're just going to promote somebody else that shares their same views. Obama is not going to let any moderate take over the Democrat Party or the presidency.
We'll wait and see. I will have my fingers crossed that calmer and cooler heads will prevail. But like I said, we have a lot to talk about. And those that are watching and listening on all the various places, and I said, yes, we are working up an Instagram. We did have it. Oh, let's hit the play button. Yep, it's up on our website. For those that are listening, our website's very simple. It's the name of the show, Southern Sense as in Common Sense.net. And you can find us over there. We have a chat room open on that, as well as on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch and X and everywhere else. But those that listen to the show know that we do and dedicate each and every show to a fallen hero or heroes. They could be military, they could be first responders, or they can simply be an outstanding citizen that did something above and beyond to help bring this nation forward. And today's dedication is going to go out to Sergeant Nevada Krinkee of the Sheridan Police Department in Wyoming. His end of watch was Tuesday, February 13th of this year. And here's a video from YouTube, and
It's an emotional day for the city of Sheridan, Wyoming, as they've gathered to honor the life of Sergeant Nevada Krinkee. As they pay their respects, they'll also be saying their final goodbyes.
It's a sad day.
Sheridan lost a really top police officer and a
a bad incident here a couple weeks ago.
We live in a small town where we think we're protected from these kinds of things.
Ceremony. Something at the center of the day, stretching across town, hitting the center of the heart of this small Wyoming city.
Our town and community is really saddened.
I didn't know the officer at all, but that doesn't matter.
This young man and his family is suffering from the loss and everything, so that's why you're going to see a lot of people on the street today.
The city of Sheridan and beyond gathering to ensure that one police officer exits this life the way he lived in it, surrounded by love.
He said they expect over 1,000 officers to come in from out of state, so it's just what they do.
And the cars just kept going, and, you know, everybody's talking about it, everybody's hugging each other.
I mean, they're expecting not even everybody to fit at the funeral service, you know? I mean, I think that's pretty special.
The Sheridan community says just as Sergeant Krinkee protected and served, they'll make sure to return the service to those he leaves behind, following the example of selflessness that he set.
His family's going to be taken care of. Sheridan will be there for him.
I just hope that the community, you know, rallies together.
I think myself, like every other person here in Sheridan, expresses our deepest condolences to a young family, and especially a family with a baby, just getting their life started.
It just brings us all together, and that's Sheridan. Sorry.
Marcus Kakova, MTN News.
Friday was a hard day in Sheridan, one filled with endless sadness and remembrance for Sergeant Nevada Krinkee.
He put other people first.
That was a popular theme in front of almost 2,000 family and friends, with many more watching from afar.
Your presence today affirms Nevada's legacy.
Lieutenant Danny Keller delivered the eulogy. He was Sergeant Krinkee's close friend and supervisor at the Sheridan Police Department. Chief Travis Koltiska also spoke 17 days after Krinkee was shot and killed while serving a trespassing notice near downtown Sheridan. He is the first SPD officer ever killed in the line of duty.
Nevada made the ultimate sacrifice in service to others. We must never forget the bond that unites us as members of this department and guardians of this community. Nevada would expect that.
Lieutenant James Hill also shared remarks about Krinkee's immense impact on the department.
He asked that his dispatchers and officers have a plan each day, have a plan for each case, be professional, aggressively pursue crime. Give the team an example of what to strive for and what high performance looks like.
Hill said his office is right next to Krinkee's wife's, Carla's, office. She did not speak personally, but asked Keller to deliver her words.
I couldn't help but fall in love with this man. I don't think I will ever feel like I told him enough how proud I am to be his wife. It feels like the world's crumbling. I'm lost, and I don't know if I will ever be able to find my way back without him. And yet, I still can't believe how lucky I am to have known him.
Powerful from a now widow and single mother to their infant daughter, Bella. Krinkee is also survived by 5 siblings, including sister Kenzie, who he was closest with, Kenzie also having words read on stage.
Having Nevada in your life from day one as your protector, your mocker, your cheerleader, your coach, and best friend is more than one moment. And I wish I had more moments. He deserved more moments. But I am so grateful to have gotten those we did.
A feeling shared by all as they continue to memorialize 33-year-old Nevada Krinkee. Casey Conlon, MTN News.
Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, we led with grace. Let it be seen, from sea to shining sea, beautiful America, living our legacy. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother. Oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be known as people of honor, humble and bold, faithful through fire. Let us hold firm to our convictions with wide open hearts, eager to listen. Sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us make room. Let us reimagine welcoming voices with true compassion. Let's craft a world with hopes and dreams, challenges known, those still unseen. Sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Be sure when our time has come, we gave them hope, we made them strong. Let it be said when we finish this race, we kept them free, yeah, we led with grace. Sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let it be said. Sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation.
All right, and we're back. That was Tiffany's Soul of the Nation. And God bless her for letting us use that every week when we do our dedication. I'm your hostess with the least mostest, Annie, the Radio Chick-A-Dee Ubelis, along with my co-host, C.S. Bennett, who is an author too. Check out Curtis. What are you up to? 29 books now?
30.
See, I lost count. I lost count.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm working on 2, and they should be out in the fall.
Oh, excellent. It looks like we got our first guest in early, so if she doesn't mind, and if she's all set up, we'll bring her on. And welcome back to the show. She takes a swig. I hope that's vodka or something in there.
Oh, no. I've got too busy of a day today and tomorrow. But.
Well, welcome aboard, Cathi Chamberlain. She's the host of the podcast Warn 2024 and the author of the book Rules for Deplorables. And she is a reformed liberal. So, yay, welcome to the good side of things.
Flaming liberal, as I like to say.
California flaming.
Yes.
How's it going?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Oh, just ducky. We got this new format, finally got it down. I finally have it running on my homepage. So if people are interested, they can go to southernsense.net and join in the chat room over there. Have it now up on Instagram. Whoa, I'm graduating. As well as half a dozen other places. But there's a lot to talk about. I mean, we started with the debates. And it was the call to say, okay, Joe Biden, something's wrong here. Maybe we should look at some alternatives. And there was New York Times editorial opinion piece calling for him to step aside in the race immediately after the debates. Then everything quieted down for a little while. And then we come up with Trump's rally in Butler, Pennsylvania last Saturday. And oh, gee, the world turned on its head that day. Holy cow. From that point on, it's just gotten worse for Joe Biden to the point where now, last night at the convention, it was announced that this weekend he may decide to withdraw from the race. Things are happening fast and crazy, Cathi.
Yeah, they sure are. And so much news is coming out now that it's really hard for them to deny that this was not a setup. Now I just saw a new photo of the water tower there in the background that looks like it's got a human being crawling on it. Is that the second shooter? So it's all coming out so fast and furious. But there are, as you probably know, a couple of facts that have been determined, and that is that there was about a 30-minute time in between when the law enforcement there on the ground knew that there was somebody potentially on that roof, or at least milling around there. And they just didn't, it seems like everything they could do wrong, they did do wrong.
Well, I don't know if you know that I'm former law enforcement. And, in New York City, you get detailed for all these different places and stuff. There's usually a command post set up, and there's one person in charge. And everything comes back through the command post. Now, you're dealing with Secret Service. You're dealing with state police and local law enforcement. So, yeah, you can have a problem coordinating, making sure everyone's on the same frequency and everyone knows what their job is. But when I looked at that, I said, number one, it's a line of sight. And if you think of a handgun, possibly, but anyone with a rifle can crawl up there. Now, you got Secret Service shooters on another roof that could see him. And it took them 23 seconds to decide to take the shot. And in those 23 seconds, we came within a quarter inch of losing Donald Trump. And there was something else that was pointed out. In today's day and age of technology, if you were afraid to send a Secret Service agent up on a 4-degree roof, and I'm sorry, my late husband was a home inspector and he climbed roofs that were steeper than 4 degrees. What about a drone? Why wasn't there a drone up there with an overall look to see if someone is now where they should not be? Why were you assigning Secret Service inside a building where the shooter was sitting right above you? There were so many things that went wrong. And yet, by the grace of God, so many things went right.
That's so true. I mean, you were former law enforcement. I was a former building contractor, specifically inspecting roofs. So I've been on many, many roofs, and I got to tell you, when Cheadle, the Secret Service director, came out and said what she said about the slope of the roof, that was incredible.
It blew my mind. It actually did blow my mind.
That's so true.
You know, I've climbed, of course, many roofs, but on the rooftop. But
that was a flat roof, pretty much.
It was pretty much a flat roof, 4 degrees.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my mom, 92, on a walker could go up that. My handicap ramp is bigger than 4 degrees. It can be a maximum of 10 degrees height if I remember the building code. So if she can climb a 10-degree handicap ramp, she can climb a 4-degree roof. And you're telling me you can't send Secret Service agents up there to be there? I mean, just like I said, so many things were wrong. And you have people on the ground telling them that there's someone climbing up. He was premeditated because he bought a ladder. He had a scope, distance scope. He was there 6 days prior walking the grounds. And supposedly the parents that day found him missing and were concerned that he might be doing something stupid, which he did. And they notified law enforcement and were out there looking for him. So you've got law enforcement actively looking for a person who is a danger to himself and others. You got the former president speaking right there. They were within a short distance of the place. I mean, so many. When we get finally a responsible Congress and Senate in there and get a full investigation, this will blow wide open.
Yeah, there's the thing that really caught my attention. And are you all familiar with Jeremy Brown, the J6 former Green Beret that is really an American war hero that I've been very heavily involved with? I know that CS is, but I had rallies in front of our local jail here where he was being held, and there was a pipe bomber that showed up. That really caught my attention. And the interesting thing there, and it seems to be a former Green growing trend, is that when all the evidence came out about this pipe bomber, we here locally were furious because I had rallies in front of it appeared that the guy's entire social media, and there was a pipe bomber that showed up 1 month before and the interesting thing there events, which was in 2022 at the New anniversary, is that when all basically, but the other weird things, and this seems to be with a lot of shooting incidences today, the guy was here from Portland, Oregon, 2 months prior, he had an identity change from a man's name, his name, to a woman's name. He had his criminal record expunged 1 month before he showed up at our rally, basically. And the other weird thing that enabled the local sheriff to say, we don't know anything about this guy. How convenient. 2 months prior.
Well, Kathy, we're going to bring on our other guest that's coming on with us, Katherine Makinney, and she is the founder of AmericanPOWs.com that works to help the J6ers that are imprisoned in the DC Gulag, as we call it. And she's got a fantastic price. So Kathy meet Katherine.
Hello, nice to meet
Hi,
you.
Katherine.
Now, Kathy, you've been working, like you said, with Jerry Brown for his campaign From Behind Bars. And Katherine, your website, which I was going through last night and making tons of notes, you list a lot of these J6ers and their brief biographies as to why they're behind bars and what's going on. And as I was pulling up all this information, as I'm going through my notes here, I go on to the Justice Department's website, and they have filed 1,221 cases. And yet, when you look at the defendants, a lot of these cases have multiple defendants on them. And this is as of July 6th of this year. I mean, this is astounding.
Oh, it's over 1,400 now. It's over 1,400. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can.
Yeah, so it's about 1450, and they are actually accelerating their efforts to indict and imprison as many as possible. It started because they wanted to frame, they wanted to label President Trump as an insurrectionist. So J6 was basically a setup.
Can you hear me? Yes, we can. We can.
Yeah, so it's about 1450. And so they are actually accelerating. There was Antifa in the crowd, but more importantly, there were FBI in the crowd. As many as possible. Clay Higgins, a congressman from Louisiana, an independent. I don't know why I'm getting an echo, but are you getting an echo too? I'm going to take this off. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. I don't know where an echo would be coming from.
I think it's like reverb.
Like I can hear you better actually without the headphones. But Clay Higgins, a congressman from Louisiana, did an independent investigation himself because the J6 committee, as I think most people know now, was a
set up.
It's just a political organization. It was not a bona fide or legitimate congressional committee. It wasn't. The Republicans were not allowed to put their own people on it, and they destroyed exculpatory evidence. They of course they destroyed all of everything they had when the committee closed last year. So if they'd been legitimate, they would have wanted to share everything that they'd uncovered. But the truth is, all they were doing was picking and choosing information because they were trying to create a narrative. And so the narrative was that this was an insurrection and that Trump caused it. And the reason they wanted that is because the left has been trying ruthlessly to prevent Trump from being president. And what we just witnessed this weekend, I think, should be a testament that they will stop at nothing. But J6 was their first attempt, and frankly, it was successful. It was successful to number one, try to label it as an insurrection. I think that's kind of falling apart now, but put a label on Trump, which has not succeeded, and then to is part of basically it's a Marxist tactic to shut down everyone that stands in their way of achieving their goal of complete control. And of course, people that come to a Trump rally and are willing to march to a Capitol are people they don't want around. And they'll make stuff up. So,
there were so many things that caught me because I was listening to the radio, and somewhere around 11:30 in the morning, I'm getting text messages and flashes on my phone saying, there's a breach in the Capitol. Now, this was at least 2 hours prior to President Trump saying, let's march peacefully.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting.
I was getting messages. I was getting told 2 weeks prior that if I had any intention not to go because they were reporting about vans being parked in the area around the Capitol that had Trump memorabilia in the back of them. So we were hearing that it was going to be a huge setup.
Yes.
And why the Capitol Police did not respond? Well, that's obvious. They wanted this to happen.
Well, in their defense, Trump had asked for more resources, and they were under-resourced. So there was it would be like one policeman for every 500 people. They were under-resourced, so they actually broke DC law. There's law that lays out the protocol for riot control. They completely disregarded that and immediately started throwing tear gas, rubber bullets, and pepper spray into the crowd. And of course, it hit, that can be extremely damaging initially, right? It's not fatal or anything, but it can cause asphyxiation. So there were people that fell, and then there was a lot of melee in the crowd pushing, to try to help people that fell. And then the police were trying to push people back. Just the way it was set up, they didn't expect that. They were using bike racks as a barricade, which like, what is that? That's crazy. And so of course they were breached, and Ray Epps, who most people believe was an FBI asset, because all he could constantly say is, "Let's go into the Capitol. You got to go in the Capitol. Let's go." He was saying that the night before, and he was at 4 of the 5 breaches of the barricades. So there was FBI instigation. There were things that were like these vans that what you see at Antifa or the BLM riots, where vans would drive up. I happened to be present at one in Santa Monica. They drive up, they don't have anything on their license plate, and people pour out, almost all dressed in black, and they have things with them, implements. And in this case, there were witnesses, people I know, that went to the rally, J6, and they said that they brought out this big bag of things that would help them break the windows of the Capitol. So, of course, all of this was placed on the rioters. And if you read some of those stories, you'll see that they were charged, almost all of them were charged with assault, but they were pushing back. There was a reaction to, and so now there's plenty of video evidence of that. You have like documentaries like J6, A True Timeline, and it is mostly police body cam as well as user video, because as we know, the Capitol, the J6 committee didn't want to release any of the internal video, but you can kind of see moment by moment what's happening. And the police even said at one point, we've been set up, because they were overwhelmed and they were just trying to keep these people out. And so it got to a point where the doors were open, and a lot of people that didn't arrive earlier, because, there were literally tens of thousands of people, just walked into the Capitol, walked out, and now they're in prison for anywhere from a year to Enrico Terrio, who wasn't even there, got 22 years. So,
and if I can add
go ahead,
to
please.
what Katherine is saying, the whole point was to make the whole scene look chaotic. So a lot of the court video that was shown, as in Colton McAbee's case, they would show the video, but purposely the prosecutors would not allow the audio. So it looks to the untrained eye as though that Colton was the aggressor. But in fact, if you put the audio and the video together, you get a whole different picture. But and to go back to how this was all a setup, you can go back to December, around December 9th, I believe was the date, that Jeremy Brown was visited by the FBI 1 month prior to January 6th. And he literally, they tried to recruit him to become an infiltrator. Now he looks back and understands that that was, in fact, for January 6th. Now, Jeremy is a trained Green Beret, 20 years, and he was trained in counterintelligence and counterinsurgency. And so he had the wherewithal to record the entire conversation between himself and the FBI. And you can literally hear them on tape saying, hey, if you help us out. And they were literally trying to get him to spy on the American people. And they told him he could make a lot of money. And he declined their offer, but taped the whole thing. And only later did he go back and even listen to it and realize that they were trying to get him for the January 6th insurrection. But he only came out with the recording once he heard Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, lie to the American people in Congress on March 3rd, I think it was, of 2021, saying, no, we didn't use any infiltrators. That's ridiculous. Okay. So that's what really upset the apple cart for Jeremy. And that's when he went viral with his recording. And a couple of back in September of that year is when his house was surrounded in Tampa Bay, Florida, by a complete task force, Roger Stone-like, and they planted evidence. And, now they're coming out, the assistant district attorney there in DC, Matthew Graves, he has said that it doesn't matter if all of these J6ers, I think there's like 350 cases that would be affected by that 1512 rule that just got ruled on by the Supreme Court. It doesn't matter to them. They will come after those J6ers. They're not letting them off. Right now, a lot of those cases are being reviewed by the attorneys, but they're not going to let these guys off. Graves already said he's going to double down and get them for something else. It's unbelievable.
There's a statute of limitations deadline they're trying to meet, which is early 2026. Am I correct? Is it 2025 or 2026?
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, there is a statute. I had it in my notes somewhere along this mess. Anyway, what I found was that you talked about this 1512 statute that deals with tampering with evidence.
Well, that's obstruction of official proceeding.
They're trying to say
it is with the Enron case. It goes back to
1512B, and 1512 is about destruction of documents, and A talks about shredding of documents, and then B says which obstructs a official proceeding. So, you know, what the DOJ is doing is, can I just grab something from 1812 or from over here and just, you know, and the reason they did that is because they were stacking charges and then they wanted to add a felony. 1512B happens to be a felony. So that allows them to upgrade other misdemeanors to felonies and then get 8 years for trespassing, essentially. So,
and that was the one Matthew Perno committed suicide over.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's not the only one.
It was too much for him. They kept piling on.
Yeah, because it's overwhelming, right? The DOJ comes at you and says, because that particular statute says up to 20 years. So they could say, hey, we've got 40 years, so you better cooperate. And they pushed a lot of them. As you know, Peter Navarro said this, that they were like, say that Trump made you do this, say that Trump made you do this. So initially it was all about getting Trump, but now it's more about, it's just a Marxist tactic to eliminate anybody that stands in your way of accomplishing the goal of complete control.
Well, just on a side note, I love Peter Navarro. He's a fellow paisano. So whenever I have him on the show, it's always fun to talk with him. And I watched him as he and his fiance went out there in the convention. He looked gaunt. He looked skinny, but he looked very triumphant. He will be here August 2nd.
Oh, so. Awesome. Yeah, I hope he has a place in the next Trump administration.
Oh, you know he will.
Yeah, and he basically went to prison because he refused to say to implicate Trump.
Yeah.
Well, just look at how they tried to make an epic thing out of January 6ers. But what about Portland that burned all summer? I mean, you had the vice president saying, I'll help bail them out.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I've been told, well, those were states. That was state crime, and this was a federal crime. Okay, so it was D.C. But the problem is that something similar had happened in I believe it was 2020, when, do you remember the BLM/Antifa went to the White House? They burned that church across the street.
Lafayette.
And Trump didn't even go into hiding. Do you know what happened to those people?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Right.
It's the law for thee, but not for me.
Right.
And that's just what we're facing. And what got me was the stacking of the charges. And I recall whenever I made an arrest, you go into the ADA and you sit down and you put down all the charges you think that would be applied. And the ADA would say, well, we can get them on just this and that, and we're going to toss the rest. In this case, I'm finding that they do the exact opposite, where they're being arrested and you give one or two charges, but then the ADA or the DA turns around and is stacking and stacking and stacking. Mm-hmm. And I went through a lot of those documents last night and today on your website and on the DOJ website. And I was just astounded that how they were charging these people. One guy goes in with another one, and because he was carrying a flag and a skateboard, they were saying this flat board with orange wheels. It's a friggin' skateboard. All right, it's a skateboard. Call it for what it is. And someone knocked over a couple of garbage cans. They stooped down and picked up the garbage and put it back in the can and then quietly left. But they had charges stacked against them. Another guy goes to videotape the place, and I look at it, and there's 3 separate times he's being charged with the different crimes, but some of them overlapping for being in the Capitol just videotaping. And I'm looking at them, and I got a thunderstorm coming in. Oh, great. So you hear a loud clap behind me. Anyway, I was reading it and reading these things, and it just completely blew my mind on what is being done to these people. And we've had Jake Lang on it. Now, I'm just curious, what is going on with Jeremy Brown? Is he still behind bars or is he out? What's going on?
Yeah, he's still, he's actually waiting for his appeal, but he's behind bars. He hasn't even gone for his DC court case yet. They did the same thing to him, basically. They come in with these innocent sounding misdemeanor trespassing on Capitol grounds. And in his case, they judge shopped. So in DC there, the DOJ went through about 4 or 5 judges until they found one to say, okay, I'll sign off on you getting a search warrant for this guy way over in Tampa, Florida, for trespassing. And then they surrounded the home, and the rest is kind of history. But he got 7 years behind bars for things that they supposedly found in his home. I mean, it was just incredible. I went through the whole trial. I saw firsthand everything that was unfolding, the way that they hide exculpatory evidence, the way they twist things in the courtroom to make it sound. I mean, I knew the story, and even I was sitting there thinking, wow, is he guilty? Knowing full well he was not. It's just incredible. They've got it down. So that's why, for me, when all these charges started piling on Trump, I had people saying to me, oh, this is great. Now they'll get the truth out. He'll get all the evidence out about the stolen election or the J6 thing. And I just laughed and I said, no, he won't. They're not going to let him, because they practiced almost with all the J6ers with their trials. So Jeremy is serving right now in Citrus County Jail here in Florida. And I believe his appeal is September 3rd. Hopefully this is going to all come out. And as they say, the victor always has the history written for them. And I'm just praying that we're the victor in this spiritual war, because otherwise generations to come will believe that all these J6ers were truly insurrectionists, and Trump too.
I don't think so. This is a Marxist coup. It really is. And there's 4 stages, but each stage, as we see, in Russia, Venezuela, Cuba, China, each stage requires control of information, which you could do, right? You could do it in 1920. You could do it in China, even that, they put basically firewalls around any of their social media sites or what have you, or news sites. That doesn't exist here. And they tried really, and they were accomplishing it until Elon Musk bought Twitter. And of course, independent media like Southern Sense is just, it's all this information everywhere. So what we saw in the pandemic, of course, was this is the worst virus in the world, and we're all going to die, and we've all got to hide under our beds and wear masks, and of course get the vaccine, because the goal, I think, was a vaccine passport, which was a step towards a central bank digital currency, to have digital control of every human being. But what happened was the information started getting out, right? So it just started to not, and what we see now is that we laugh, right? When people say, oh, the virus came from a bat, we think, were you in a time capsule? What happened? No, the virus did not come from a bat. It was probably purposely released. The vaccine was not safe and effective. Every single pharmaceutical company has now come out with kind of slight admissions, either myocarditis or this or that. In other words, it's not 100% safe and effective. It's actually dangerous, and particularly for younger ages. And there's so many doctors now coming out, I'm sure you're aware of that are saying, I'm so sorry, because I see the damage this has wrought.
No,
And
you
there
make
are
a lot of really
so
big points.
anyway, so now, right, 4 years later, I guess, the light is everywhere. Like, yeah. So I feel the same thing will happen regarding the J6 situation.
Yeah, it has to come to light. No, you were mentioning COVID, and that's very funny because at the time COVID broke out, I had two friends of mine serving as missionaries in the Wuhan province, and they were telling me as early as October of 2019 to buy masks, surgical gloves, and make yourself hand sanitizer, which I was doing in 2019.
Wow.
So we knew, and it occurred just before the Chinese New Year, which that is when the Chinese travel the most, most around China itself and around the rest of the globe. And that is their Christmas holiday, basically, the New Year. That lasts all month long. And we were hearing about this going on. And then we were also hearing that they said the police showed up the door and said, you better leave because if you get sick, we're not going to take care of foreigners. The hospitals are for the Chinese only.
Wow.
We were hearing a lot, and they managed to get themselves out. It took them a couple of months into South Korea and eventually home. So even within the communist China, word is able to get out. But here, it's harder to control our voices. And once I heard, I had the platform here. I kept on going. And we have to keep on going. We have to keep on going.
I don't know if you all have heard of Event 201 that occurred in October 18th, I think, of 2019. And that was sponsored and financed by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the WEF, all of the suspect characters. And they put together basically an assimilation of what simulation, I should say, of what would happen if a big
global
pandemic occurred. And to a T, it was weird because I wrote about it back in 2020 in April, just 2 months after everybody was really kind of hearing about COVID. But I found out about this, and what struck me is that everything they said happened in this simulation, and they were all professionals, the Johns Hopkins University and whatever. How we would wear masks 6 feet apart, the PCR testing, everything occurred just as they said, except one thing. And that threw me for a very long time until just recently. And that one thing was they predicted 65 million deaths. Well, now we're up to, supposedly, according to the life insurance actuaries around the globe, 35 million deaths. So now I see 65 million as a real possibility.
Is that COVID or COVID plus the vaccine? Because I have a feeling that
that was definitely plus the vaccine. The vaccine, no, COVID didn't create that number of deaths. COVID created just a very small percentage of it. If it was even, I mean, everything was being blamed on COVID, and we didn't have any flu deaths, amazingly, during 2020 or 2021. So it's definitely from the vaccine or from all of the piling on COVID as being the cause of death.
Right. If you got shot in the head and you had COVID, then it was a COVID death.
Yeah. Right. Well, my husband passed away in 2021. And the first thing I did, I made sure the death certificate did not have COVID on it.
I have,
and he did not have COVID. I just wanted to make sure, because if it did, then the hospital would get X amount of extra money per body labeled with COVID, which was another scam.
Right.
And here we're coming now with the J6ers. And again, they're trying to control the information, control the narrative, craft the story to control the populace. And what I was reading in some of these biographies was actually really astounding. And when reading also in the descriptions, because Katherine, what you're doing on your website, which is AmericansPOWs.com, you have a bio and a story behind each picture. And I found time after time after time within the crowd, these FBI, some of them finally dawned on them that the guy that they bumped into was one of those FBI informants. suddenly a can of tear gas or a fire extinguisher would appear.
Yeah.
And here they're in a melee. They're being pushed by police. They haven't done anything wrong, but all of a sudden they've got tear gas. They've got rubber bullets. They've got batons. They've got the bicycle racks. They've got the barricades being pushed against the people. I'm sorry. We didn't do anything wrong. We're here to come to the Capitol steps to talk. And
Right.
suddenly now they're being attacked. What is the most common thing you humanly will do? You fight back.
Right. Right. And
Or
some of them
defend.
honestly were invited in, right? The doors were open and the police were saying, come on in. And one fellow, Larry Brock, he was recently released to a halfway house. He was an Air Force lieutenant commander. He served in 2 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he was an airline pilot. And of course, they slapped him with the multiple misdemeanors and then 1512 C2. So it was felony. He lost his license. He went to prison for, even though when he went to the Capitol, by the way, what Clay Higgins has found is that there were FBI agents dressed as Trump protesters in the Capitol waiting, because the Capitol is like a maze. It was, you're not going to be able to just walk in and go to Nancy Pelosi.
I've been there. I've been in the tunnels.
Yeah. But that's what they were there for. Oh, come with me. Come on. They would act like, come on. We're going to go to Nancy Pelosi's. We're going to go to Mike Pence's office, so that they would get quickly to the right offices to create the narrative. And he went to, I'm trying to think if it was Pence or Pelosi. I think it might have been Pelosi's office, but he was saying, everybody, let's be peaceful. Let's not.
Oh, is that the one that
he did? Personal stuff. This is not okay.
He had the picture taken behind the desk with his foot up on the desk, and the picture was taken by this guy Alib for Getty, and he made a mint on the photograph, and the poor guy went to prison.
Yeah,
just for a photograph, for posing for a photograph.
Yeah,
he was duped.
He was
duped.
4 or 5 years. Yeah. Parading is one of the misdemeanors.
Well, and I was there, and I had reached where the platforms are. I was with 4 other women, and it was so beautiful and peaceful and wonderful. And everybody, as you've heard, singing and praying, and Trump supporters they leave a whole area cleaner than they found, it. But the thing that got us to turn around was all of a sudden, out of nowhere, came the smoke bombs.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, right. And oh my gosh. And then I saw people running down past us that were their eyes were completely watered, and that's when you knew we were being fired on. So it went from complete calm to complete chaos in a matter of seconds. And now, of course, another thing Graves is saying is that they're not finished yet. Now they're going after this geofence that I was in, so that they're next. And that's obviously a witch hunt. But by the time I got back to our hotel, and we left as soon as we saw that kind of trouble coming. And when I went back and then started watching the news, it was nothing like I just left. Nothing. I was like, where did these people come from? And the things that I saw happen right up there when the windows were breaking in, I knew instinctively these were not Trump patriots. It just, everything looked off.
Yeah.
Well, some of them, I mean, to be fair, there were 2 or 3 of them that were Trump patriots that did get kind of violent. There were men that had either PTSD or they actually had charges in the past for violence.
Yeah,
there were a couple of those people, because when you get in a situation like that and you have an anger issue,
you get triggered.
It's
and I don't mean to exonerate everybody who was there.
Yeah, but it was like 99% of them were they just basically wanted to express a grievance, which theoretically in our Constitution we're supposed to be able to do. And so they set it up. The left set it up, and now they are they're doubling down on imprisoning these people. And most Americans don't know what's going on. So that's why I started American POWs, because I want to raise awareness of what's going on, because I feel like when people know what's really going on, I mean, witness the persecution of Trump, right? It's been front and center. And every time he gets persecuted and almost killed, his poll numbers go way up. In other words, Americans aren't for this kind of nonsense. No. So the idea is adopt a J6er. You know, you can buy a bracelet, you get the bracelet, and then you get their story, and there's a QR code, and it will take you to their page on the website, and you can get updates on what's going on with them. So
Kudos
that was the
to you,
idea. That
by the way.
Yeah.
I looked at your website, Katherine. It's awesome. And we had actually thought like 3 years ago about the POW bracelet. It's brilliant that you followed through on that, because that really has been needed. It looks like you did a lot of research on your website. So I was real happy to see that. Thank you.
Yeah. But you know, it's very dynamic, right? So it's hard to keep up with, because there are people being released and imprisoned, more being imprisoned. When I started, it was like 200 people in prison, because I'm only doing the people that are in prison. And now there's 240. So they're doubling down. And you'd think, why? Like, their goal of labeling Trump didn't work. But it is part of the Marxist tactic to try to eliminate anybody that disagrees. And obviously, most of these folks were clearly people that were going to take action, that wanted to express their grievance. So they're like, let's take them out. The interesting thing, though, I think it's going to have the opposite effect.
I think when Trump gets back in office, he's going to pardon all of them.
I hope so, because
he'll look at each case, but most of those people will be released. I have no doubt.
I hope so. Well, one, I hope the election is. I hope it is too big to rig. I'm concerned about what they're going to do, because I know I've studied the Marxist techniques, and the first mantra is that the end justifies the means. So they believe what they're doing is wonderful. So if you have to break a few eggs, I mean, lie, cheat, steal, murder, and people say, oh, that's exaggerating. No, at the end of the 20th century, Marxism had killed 110 million people between Mao and Stalin. It makes Hitler look like a walk in the park, really,
right,
compared to the brutality of Marxism. Marxism is incredibly brutal, and it isn't racist. It will come on anyone, the way that Nazism was, against the Jews. It's anyone that disagrees or becomes an impediment to their goal of control. Well, and that's why I think we all have to really be concerned, because they're in power. I don't believe it was a lone shooter this weekend. I believe they were behind it. I was discussing this morning because I was thinking, what if they had been successful? Now, I believe that God's hand was there.
Yes.
But what if they'd been successful, would there have been as much focus on what really happened? I'm not sure there would be. That's not intuitive, right? We wouldn't. But if you remember, when JFK was assassinated, everybody was so focused on, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Because you're so in shock. It would have been, Republicans would have been scrambling at the convention, and I actually think there wouldn't be as much attention on what really. Now there's so much, because we're like, they're not going to stop. I don't think they're going to stop. I don't know if it'll be another assassination attempt.
No, but the timing. But look at the timing of it. Just days before the convention, to throw the entire convention into disarray. It was deliberate timing, and the fact that the parents were looking for him and reported to police that he was going to be a problem, and nothing was said or done. Why wasn't the Secret Service at the rally notified? Why were they pulled off the roof where the kid was on, specifically that one roof? I mean, there's a lot of questions. Why were the female Secret Service agents that were assigned were from behind desks? They were not field trained for this.
Right.
And if you do body security like this, you have to train and work as a single unit. And that's not something you do overnight. That takes weeks and months to get the team to be completely cohesive. And they were a full head shorter than the person that you're supposed to be bodyguarding. No, your full body must cover the individual. And what really ticked me off, really, the one female comes down, she goes to holster a weapon on a hip that doesn't have a holster. The holster was on the opposite side hip. I'm sorry, first thing you know, before you even put the gun on, is which hip your gun's going to be on and how to holster it and not holster it quickly and safely.
Right.
And she didn't even know which hip her holster was on. I'm sorry, that's not a trained outside agent.
There's been some briefing or something to Congress, and Josh Hawley broke it this morning that he was told that they weren't Secret Service agents.
Mm-hmm.
They were Department of Homeland Security agents that they dropped in, and it wasn't his regular team. We saw his regular team at the RNC, which are big men surrounding him.
I want them around me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I guess they've been working for, this was all planned. They'd been working for 10 or 11 days, and so they had some time off. But they put in people that were not trained Secret Service agents. So, number one rule of the Secret Service, right? I mean, this is obvious, but you're responsible for so there's no perimeter like, oh, there's a guy there pointing a gun, but that's not in my perimeter. That's not the way you think. You think it doesn't matter.
You got the whole field.
If it's 5 miles away, I'm going to deal with it because my only goal is to keep this person alive. So the minute they saw a threat, the first thing you do is he doesn't go on stage, right?
But then let him go on stage.
Right. So all of it, but you had these people that didn't know what they were doing, and you could tell, like the girls were like,
where do you put your hands?
It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. It looked like
one of them in the photo, you see she ducks down, so he's exposed from the shoulders up.
So
I'm sorry, wait a minute. You're supposed to be protecting the body.
Yeah.
Well, I know the Democrat convention is coming up in another week or two, and they still have a problem. They still have 3 people standing in their way. One is Trump. They try to get rid of him. One is Joe Biden, and one is Jill Biden. And we know Joe got to go. He's in their way.
I think they'll figure out a way to get rid of him. But then they've got the Kamala problem, right? Because she polls lower than he does.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 things. Jim Clyburn, who's the senator here from South Carolina, has already publicly last week said they will endorse Kamala Harris should he drop out. Basically, he's saying, Joe, you're going to have to go. You need the black vote. We're giving it to her instead. Basically, he handed them that. So
and the donors as well are being handed over.
Future Forward, which is the largest PAC, already closed the bank account. Said if Joe's on the ticket, we're not giving you any money, not one single dime. They closed the bank. And you're finding other PACs doing the same thing. And you're hearing calls now from areas like Chuck Schumer. That's a huge stab in the back. There's now talk that the Obama camp has already said we're letting him know that we're not happy. He's got to come off. You're hearing now rumors from the White House itself that his family is making plans for him to drop out of the race. So family, who's the family? Hunter and Jill?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm sure they're negotiating. If I had to guess, they're negotiating. Sure. In other words, how much do they get? Full pardons for all of them, right? And I don't know how that works. I don't know if you can pardon someone before they're indicted. I don't know how that works, but I'm sure Joe will want that. But think about it. What most presidents do, in fact, everyone I can think of in my lifetime, they go off and they do something else. They do speeches for $500K a pop. They bop around. They're celebrated everywhere they go. Look at Obama, and write a book. There's nothing like that for him. He can't knit together 4 sentences, So there's no speeches. So the money train of influence just ends. It's over.
Unless they give it to Jill. They anoint Jill.
Let me add that
she loves the spotlight.
I think.
Yeah, but she has nothing to say. Like the wife of the, you know, I don't know. Would you go pay to see her talk? I don't know, but
I wouldn't pay to see me talk.
on the pardon issue, I believe Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon, and he hadn't been convicted of anything.
And they were speaking about that Trump should have pardoned himself and his entire family before he left office. So I have heard that. I don't know how true that is, but I just want to address something that Katherine said about Marxism. And, you know, obviously this is war to them by any means necessary, right? We've heard that many times. But this goes way beyond that. This is the Marxists are just the useful idiots that are making sure that all of this works according to the globalist plan. And the globalists cannot afford to lose this. They're not finished with Trump trying to get him out of the way yet.
No, they're not.
Because the globalists have like hundreds of trillions of dollars at stake, and the control and the power. So once the globalists get their control, if they are successful, the Marxists are just in the way. And they've been promised an awful lot of stuff to make the globalist plan come to reality with all of the, of course, climate change excuses and everything. But I think, you know, at that point, that's the real danger, is what the globalists have in mind for our planet.
Well, Katherine, you know the steps, like we see it in China, that as soon as the leader is now in power, those that helped him into power are suddenly now his focal point of destruction.
Absolutely.
We saw it with the Red Guard. We saw it with the intellectual elite. So all these blissful idiots, the Antifa, the intellectuals, the college professors and everything, they are the intellectuals, the artists, the writers. They're going to be the first ones to go. They're going to be in the line of fire, and then they're going to feel how we feel. And there's going to be no one there to defend them because they defeated us.
Right.
Well, because and you'll know, because they'll go from being the useful idiots to the useless idiots. And when that happens to them, they are outraged and indignant. It's like, I did all this for you. They're the first ones in any kind of communist country or Marxist. They're the first ones that get taken out because if Joe Biden, the useful idiot, who's now become a useless idiot to them, if he fights this much harder, they're just going to take him out. They're the first ones to go because they're the most indignant, because they realize they've been duped all this time, and they did the bidding for people who were not loyal to them at all.
Right. I agree with all of that, but I will say, as a Christian believer, I wasn't quite sure where God was on this, and I felt like I would be sure November 5th, because we might be under judgment. Maybe he'll, you read the Bible, maybe he'll let us be destroyed. So I didn't know, but after Saturday, I saw the hand of God. He saved his life. And so my response to all of the things that they can throw at him is, but God. And it is like a movie. I feel like we're watching history unfold. Yes. People will be reading about this period of history for decades, if not centuries.
And which side will they be on? Which side? This is a whole test, in my opinion, from God. We're being tested. Now, we know in the end who wins, but there's a whole lot of destruction ahead.
Yeah. But I believe that
we're already seeing that.
I believe he's going to win.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to win. We see it in the Bible. I mean, that there's no doubt about that. But
Trump.
Trump.
I think Trump's going to win.
I'd be shocked if we get to a point where we actually have an election. I've been very heavily involved with the election integrity process here in Florida. And I got to tell you, I mean, nothing's changed. Nothing, except that now we have these.
We're still using Dominion. We're still using Dominion voting machines. Can you believe that?
And here, CS, as you know, in Florida, we have a majority of our counties are actually using ES&S, but they're the same thing. It doesn't matter. But from the voter rolls to the machines, nothing has changed, except this time which was the plan from Cloward Piven, Richard Cloward and Francis Fox Piven. The whole concept of the elections to destroy our election systems was to overwhelm it with deadwood, is what they called it. And we're seeing that all play out. I mean, their strategies were all put into motion in 1993 with the Motor Voter Act signed by Bill Clinton. And she was present at the White House because she built the whole blueprint to destroy our election system. So once again, while even in states like here in Florida, where the people, all you people out there in other states, all you keep hearing is we have the gold standard. I'm here to tell you, no, we do not. That's all a ruse. It just happens we weren't targeted in 2020, but we're in no better shape, in my opinion, than other states. Now, we have passed some legislation to tighten things up, and I was a big part of that, and I'm very proud of that. But the Rhino Republicans weakened everything we put in front of them. I'm only imagining just from following other states, that's the same thing's been done there. So I frankly, and what we're seeing today with the cyber hacking that's just occurred today.
Oh yeah, this morning.
This is when I talked about Event 201, my speeches that I go around and give these days is all about Black Swan events. And I did an article, a research paper on it back in 2021 on Cyber Polygon. Anybody heard of that one? It's a duplicate, exact copy of what Event 201 was for pandemics to what cyber hacking is, because they did the same simulation. Cyber Polygon, it was a simulation of what would occur if the internet got shut down worldwide. And it's just amazing when you put on by the same people, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the World Economic Forum, even Johns Hopkins University, and all these professionals got together to simulate and try to determine what's going to happen if the whole world goes out at once.
Well, we kind of see that today with the airlines that can't go anywhere because of the Microsoft program that got screwed up.
Listen, I was in software. An update doesn't do that. I've
read that as well.
That's what they're saying, that it was an update. So the question is, right.
Yeah, I think they were testing.
I think it was a practice run.
Yeah, practice. Maybe they're
Well, the Dolly ship at the harbor there in Baltimore, same thing. There was right before that happened, because that ship was taken over. Many experts look at it that GPS system was taken over by cyber hacking, but also just before that, a bunch of state. I think there were 4 states. Their 911 services went out then too. So anything can happen to stop the elections. That's my big fear, because they can't let Trump win. There's no way the globalists are going to allow that.
But God, I mean, everything they have done has exploded in their face and done the exact opposite, which is
they're desperate
Trump
now.
More popular. And now people are connecting the assassination attempt with the lawfare. Mm-hmm. And so think about anything else. The dots are going to connect very quickly. That's what I say about the importance of, if you're going to do a Marxist takeover, you better have control of the information, because if you don't, people are going to start talking, and it spreads with the internet. It just spreads so quickly. I mean, we know massive details about what happened Saturday because of the internet. Mm-hmm. So we're in a better spot than we think we are, because of the flow of information. And I think that God's got it. If you watched Tucker's speech, he said, I feel okay now. And if I had to bet, it's because he saw God's hand. Like God.
Yeah. And if anyone has ever felt the presence of God, it is a powerful, powerful thing. I tell a story when my husband first got really ill. He was in we rushed him to the hospital, and he was in ICU, and they were giving him just hours. And I had to come home because we got cats, and I had to feed the cats, and I was on my way back to the hospital. And before I left the house, I dropped down on my knees next to my bed, and I started praying and crying. And I kept on crying, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I went prostrate. And once I did that, it dawned on me I was praying for the wrong thing. I said, whatever your will is, I accept. And I felt change. I felt a full change. I get back to the hospital. I was going maybe hour and a half. And the doctor greets me at the elevator as I step into ICU. And she was a substantial woman, to be polite. And she grabs me in a huge hug, and she's crying. She's crying, and I can't see over her shoulder. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he's gone. He's gone. He's gone. And then when she stepped away, I looked over her shoulder. There he was, sitting up in bed as if nothing was wrong, laughing with the nurses.
Wow.
And she couldn't understand it. She could not understand it. And years later, when I was telling that story, he looked at me, he goes, I know the moment you prayed. He felt it too. So I'm telling you, if anyone has ever felt that, Donald Trump felt it on Saturday.
Yes.
He did. He said he did. He felt God's presence. Did you see that viral video of a quote unquote prophet that I'd never seen before? Did you see that guy? Because in April, this fellow, I don't even remember his name because I hadn't seen him before, but he said in April, he said, well, there's going to be an assassination attempt on Trump, and it's going to not get him, but it's going to get his ear, and it's going to be his right ear.
I did see that.
Yeah.
That was
but
amazing.
he said, and his eardrum will be hurt. I don't know if that happened. And he said, but during that time, he'll have an encounter with God. And I don't know if he was a believer before that, but he'll be a believer after that. Trust me. He will be a changed man. And I believe he is right now.
You saw when he stepped on stage, he
Yes.
was different.
Yes.
There was a difference in his
Totally different
presence.
countenance. Yes. But the other things he said were that Trump would win, but that what they would do, because what they did when he shocked them when he won in 2016 is they just kept putting, spikes in the wheels of his administration.
Roadblocks.
Yeah, just try to stop him. And it did. It slowed him down. It didn't completely stop him, but it did slow him down. It would be interesting to know what he could have accomplished had they not been constantly at his heels with all the investigations and the deep state AGs that were, foiling his attempts and all that. But he said after he gets, he seemed to indicate that it might be before his inauguration that there will be a crash. That's what they will do so that he inherits a complete economic disaster as a president, which that would make a lot of sense, right? If you think, it's hard to put yourself in how they think because it's just so dark. And
Well, we've only got a few minutes left, ladies. I mean, I'm glad I had both of you, and this has been really exciting. I had tons of notes here for doing all my research, reading all the stories that you posted up there. I went through them one by one. I also went into the court documents and was looking at the indictment documents with the photos as evidence. And I'm going, oh my God, they actually made these things. And then charging them as domestic terrorists. So they were denied their constitutional rights of an attorney, speedy trial, and so forth. But what I was going to try to say is that we have to do this again. I have here at the end of the show the Justice for All video where Donald Trump does the what is it, the Pledge of Allegiance as they sing the Star Spangled Banner. So I want to end the show with that. And I want to thank you both for joining us. Cathi, people can find you at Warn 2024 podcast on Rumble. You also have your own webpage, Rules for Deplorables book, that people can find out more about. You read your blog. Katherine, you are doing absolutely phenomenal work, and God bless you. I'm telling people, go onto your site, AmericanPOWs.com, get a bracelet. Support a J6er. You help them put funds in their accounts there so they can have stuff from the commissary like cigarettes or whatever, toilet paper.
Well, some of them need extra food because of the food they're getting is in some cases.
they can write to the J6ers and also find out what's going on, get updates on it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of work you put into that website. God bless you that you have the time and patience to do that. And Curtis, geez, whew, what a show. What a show. Ladies, it has been absolutely fun. I want to thank you and God bless you. And we're going to do this one more time. We can't let the story sit down.
Yeah.
So let's plan on getting together like in about a month from now, and we'll do like a monthly update and see what's going on.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you, Ann. Thanks, CS.
All right.
See you soon.
God bless you.
God bless you too.
All right, Curtis, we have that has been a phenomenal show, and I'm looking at the time. We've got just 6 minutes left. And with that, I'm going to start with the Justice for All and then with our closing. So we'll be back next week. We have Mark Tapscott with us. I'm trying to figure out who else we have coming up also next week. Mark Tapscott and Clarence McKee is coming on.
That's right. Nobody.
Right. And then following week on August 2nd, it's going to be John O'Connor, who had the Watergate book that was supposed to be on last week. He will be on the 2nd, as well as Peter Navarro, who just got released from prison. So with that, folks, I want to say thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the show as much as we did. And I say good night and God bless. And this is the J6ers, Justice for All with Donald J. Trump.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we march, words so gallantly stream. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm praying for this land I love, America, America, the home of the free. But there are people making plans to change America. They've no respect for her or what matters most to me. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Mourn for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. America. Do you hear our battle cry across America? We've got to rescue her. You know it's up to me and you to see the truth behind their lies. Don't change America. God bless America and the red, white, and blue. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Long for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust. And the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. For the friends we have loved and lost, and we still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. We know it's not too late to save America. Save America. Let's save America. Together we can save America.